You are now listening to the Going North podcast with your host, author and speaker, Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, you're going to hear the voice of a different author share their stories, expertise, and their struggles that they had to overcome in life to leave you inspired to get more out of your life. Be sure to not only listen to this episode, but share with others, connect with the authors, and always advance others to advance yourself. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we're back at you again with yet another author, but not just any author. One question I used to ask my buddies a year or so ago was, if you were to read a specific type of genre book for the rest of your life, what would it be? And one guy said travel. And funny enough, today's author, even though she's not really a big traveler, at least not a resume doesn't say she's a big traveler, she is one heck of a photographer, because this wonderful author right here takes you on an angelic journey through the angels of New York. This guest right here is an accomplished photographer, author, and healer. And funny enough, I believe she's actually the first photographer on this podcast. And she's not just any photographer, she's also has some of her photography featured in periodicals and newspapers throughout the U.S., including the New York Times and Dance Pages magazines. And funny enough, two of her angel photographs have also appeared in Angels on Earth magazine. So we're going to be talking all about angels today with the angel herself, the sensational Sylvia Moss. How are you today, ma'am?
I am so great, and I love that introduction. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, yes, ma'am, indeed. Got to have a beautiful introduction for a beautiful author behind a beautiful book.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's right. That's right, indeed. So for the folks listening, tell us all about yourself and how you came to putting out this project. I believe it took you 17 years to put it all together.
Yes. Well, there were some stops and starts. I wasn't working constantly for 17 years. I probably wouldn't be here if I had done that way. But yeah, thank you for asking. It was in all of my life up to that point, I had been knowing that I was supposed to do a book or maybe one or two books, mainly because it came from my astrologer in my chart. One of my chart readings a long time ago, she said, "You're going to be publishing 3 books." And I said, "I'm not a writer. Don't even talk to me about that. That's the furthest thing that I can do well." And she said, "Well, it's here in the chart." So I'm going along with my life. And I was a photographer, and I still am, of course. And I had been photographing, just off and on when I would see an angel in the city, because it turns out that there are so many angels in New York City in public places. Nobody knows about it. I didn't know. I mean, there's some very large ones, one very famous one in Central Park, and a few like that, and one very large one on Fifth Avenue, but they're very obvious. But so I had 3 angels in a photography show, and it was at Christmas time, of course. And right around that time, right after it, a very close friend of mine who was a landmarks commissioner, he asked me to take some snapshots of a church they were going to be renovating, and would I go do that? And so we went to do that. And on the way home, he starts asking me, how is the show going with the angels, and what angels did you put in it? And I like that. And so we were talking about it, and all of a sudden we were in a taxi, and all of a sudden he just stops talking, like in a movie, and he looks out the window, and he said, "Why don't you do a book on angels and call it Angels of New York?" Well, Dom, I let out this scream that the cab driver almost put on the brakes. I mean, turned around and said, "Is everything okay?" So, I mean, it was that kind of dramatic. And I'm a little bit dramatic, but not that dramatic. But there was my answer. And I swear to you, I know this man channeled it. I mean, he didn't make this up. I mean, this came from another place. And so from then on, I started working on it. And first I started doing a lot of writing on it, and I found some people that could help me with my writing. And it turns out that I developed to become a good writer because of this. And so I write a lot of my own copy, but of course I have it checked. But it was a great adventure because I had to get on rooftops to photograph another building. And so how am I going to get on a rooftop, in New York City? So I would go around ringing doorbells, and people would let me in. And they would say, oh, what do you do? And they would get very interested. So I got to meet all these interesting people and do this incredible stuff. And I learned a lot about photography along the way. I'd been photographing for maybe 10 years. But, when I got into this kind of a project, there were all kinds of challenges. And I loved it. I loved, the challenge and figuring it out and then the research on the literary pieces that go with it, because each angel has a poem or just a piece of prose. And then I wrote a story for each angel that goes with it. So there's like a little set as you go through the book. And most of the stories are about the artist who did that angel. But some of the angels, like Gabriel, and some of the more famous archangels, I would write about because they were, public knowledge. And so it has some wonderful historical stories in it that I just became fascinated by. That a couple of them I felt it should be a movie, but not what I wrote, but what the historical part about them is. So it was a delight to do, and it's really a delight for people when they're reading it. They light up. I'm sort of like fascinated by how the person who will get some of the books people can buy directly from me, or others they go online and buy it. But when somebody buys it directly from me, I'm so amazed at their different reactions. Because when they open the book, they say, oh, my God, I never knew that. And then they just start going through it and say, where is this angel? Oh, my goodness. So it's a whole new world that opens up in the viewing of it. But the actual book, when I was writing it, I kept saying, so, how is the book going to end? And, you start asking yourself questions, and I was guided, don't ask any more questions, just keep working. And so at the end, I realized that this was a meditation book. This wasn't an art history book, or it wasn't a travel in New York book. I mean, it's all of that. It's a fabulous guidebook for New York. But it's really, the bottom line of it is to come home in the evening from your work and sit down in the corner and just open the book to any place and have this wonderful meditation of just calming, and it just washes over you. And people start getting in touch with their angels. And they start having communication on different levels. So it really serves many, many purposes, which was unbeknownst to me at the time that it was going to be that way.
It's funny how life works, right? You get this prediction, this prophecy that you're going to be author. You're like, oh, heck no. And then lo and behold, years later, it's like, hey, I'm holding a book, and it's part of my photography skills and writing skills.
Yeah. The interesting to me is that because the man who called out the title, I asked him, and he's a close friend, I asked him if he would write the introduction, because he is, or he was, he's retired from that now, he was a landmarks commissioner of sacred sites. So I thought it was completely appropriate. And he was the inspiration for it. So he wrote the introduction, which is very nice. I like that. So it's quite a fun book. You wouldn't think that a serious book like this, one would say that it's fun, but it has that quality to it, that it takes you places that you wouldn't know that you were going to go. So in a sense, when you're talking about it being a travel that travelers. It is that exactly, because you travel into to unknown places or surprise places.
Oh yeah, and you said you knocked on a bunch of doors. So how was that experience? Did they think you were like selling something?
No, I actually was straight out. I just said, I'm a photographer and I've got to take a picture of the building next door, and I have to get to your rooftop. Can you let me in? And of course that fascinated them even more. And I only had to do it a couple of times, but I had to figure out which apartment on that street. Which apartment building on that street would give me the right access to the rooftop of the building. The building that I had this experience with is a very famous building by a very famous architect by the name of Louis Sullivan, and it's one of the landmark buildings in New York. It's exquisite because the whole front of the building is carved. You don't see many buildings that are carved. And he was actually the mentor to Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh wow!
I know, it's like you would think it would be the other way around, but he was Frank Lloyd Wright's mentor, and Frank Lloyd Wright then wrote some really accolades to this man, and some of his work is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because he was a very acclaimed. He was from Chicago. He was a very famous architect of Chicago. His name is Louis Henry Sullivan, and he had quite a life. But the other claim to fame he had was he built the first skyscraper, and so he was the impetus for skyscrapers. And of course, his skyscrapers were 13 stories high back in the day. So it's just filled with that kind of information. That's fun kind of trivia. I don't know about people in the rest of the country or the world, but New Yorkers love that kind of thing because it's it's like, oh, did you know that kind of thing. So it was great fun. Have you ever been to New York?
Oh, not yet. Still working on it.
Well, it is an architectural delight, and people who like architecture really get great pleasure out of being New York for that particular reason, because of all this, and it's such a variety and a mix of it. But the other interesting thing, the other thing that just happened with the book is, because I'm doing these podcasts with you and some other people, I decided to do a little, it's not a contest, but I decided to make an offer for people that I'll give to your listening audience, is that the first 25 people that buy a book, I'm going to do a 1 or 2 hour channeled angel readings for the first 25 people that buy the book. And angels will bring in messages, and then I'm going to give messages, personal messages, to 3 different people. So I've never done that before. I am a channel, but I've never done this kind of a thing before. But I thought it might be kind of fun, and just an interesting way to be introduced to angels.
I'm guessing the Christmas special, since it's on December 25th, the first 25.
Oh, that's interesting. The first 25. I didn't think about the 25th. No, I'll think about that one. Yeah, because this is actually going to go to the end of the month, because a lot of people have so many things going on right now that they may not get a chance to do it, and I want everybody to have a chance to have that experience if they wanted to. That's basically my story on that.
That's right, and she's sticking to it like glue and honey, or even honey glue.
Right. Yeah. But I do have more information, actually. I got a little tap on the shoulder here, an invisible tap. Because I am a healer, I'm a vibrational sound healer, and so that's so I'm not a writer, but that's my trade, so to speak. And because my daughter said to me, Mom, how does this all fit together? Well, a lot of angels come to me in my healing work. And so I'm working with angels all the time, and I never realized it just because it's the water I swim in. And it's all interconnected, I realized one day when I was redoing my resume. and there are specific healing angels in the book. And so that is a very important factor, because it's a book that's done by a photographer, but who's also a healer. And angels come to heal us. And we can talk to them and ask them for guidance and ask them for healing. But some people are more comfortable talking directly to God, and that's fine. It's not, but some people who don't have anyone to talk to in the spiritual world, angels is a really good stepping stone to that invisible world that we can't see, but it's always there. I mean, we're always surrounded by angels. We just have to ask them to come and work with us. I don't know if you know this or if your audience knows this, but angels are always there. But people think, well, if they're always there, they're going to be there to help me. No, you have to ask them, because there's a karmic or a spiritual law, I think, the universal law of the spirit, that angels cannot interfere with our life, because we have to learn the lessons that we need to learn, but we can ask them for guidance and help. And they're right in front of you. They're always around you. And when you ask, they say, yes, what can I do for you, kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun to work with them, because angels have a great sense of humor. They have a better sense of humor than we do, because they see the bigger picture. And so when we're all tied up in knots, like, oh, God, I can't stand this, what can I do? And you talk to your angel, what can I do? How did this happen? And they sort of give you a bigger picture of, don't sweat this. I've got your back. So, and it's very true. They do.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's probably right about them having a bigger picture, because I'm pretty sure they've been around for thousands upon thousands of years compared to our just miniature decades on the planet in this form, anyway.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So what led you to become a vibrational healer?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I had a friend, and she was studying with a very famous healer who was just starting out her teaching school. And she wrote a book, and she then became, after the book was out, then she became very famous. But at the same time, my friend Jane was studying with Barbara. It was Barbara Brennan was the teacher's name. I had gotten back involved in the church, the Episcopal Church to be specific, through the choir, because somebody had seen my pictures, because I was taking pictures in this Episcopal Church of the arches. They had angels, so I wasn't interested in angels at that moment. And so the choir director was doing this great big, huge concert, and he was looking for voices. And so he saw my pictures on the back pew that I was doing, and so he asked me if I sang, and so he tried to enroll me, and of course he did. So then that went right. I became a member of the church, because it was just a great church for artists, and the music was incredible, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a time when they were announcing that they had a healing service, and anybody who was interested in volunteering, please come forward. So I thought, that sounds very interesting. Why don't I do that? I had done no healing whatsoever in my life that I knew about. And so I became involved in the healing service, and it turns out that things were happening with people that I was laying my hands on. And I wasn't a devout person. I'm not a person who believes in dogma or the rules of churches. And so for me it's more about ritual and the music and the art, because that's where I get connected to God. So right at the same time that I was really getting involved in the healing service, my friend Jane said, oh, this teacher that I'm studying with, she needs a helper in her office, because she's opening this new office and she's got a new book coming out, blah, 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 blah. So she said, I think you'd be perfect, because you could work part-time, and I happen to live right around the corner. So I went over and interviewed with her, and it was a perfect fit, and so I started working with her. So I said, I think the reason that I'm here to work with you is because I'm supposed to study with you. And she said, well, that's not possible. You can't study with me and work for me at the same time, because she'd had some bad experiences with natural. And so I said, okay, that's fine. But she'd already started her next class anyway. So the book came out, and so when the book came out, she was like swamped. And she said to me one day, well, I'm going to have to really get a real secretary, because I was just office managing and managing the people because I knew a lot about nutrition and stuff. And so I said, okay, so now I can study with you. And she said, yes. So that's what started it all. And I was just doing straight off healing. And when I was in class one day, she came over to me, and this is a classroom with like 40 people, with tables of clients laying on front. She said, she asked me if I sang. And I said, oh, well, there's 40 people in the room. And I said, I used to, but I said, I don't do that anymore. She said, well, this will be a good time to start doing it again. And I said, but everyone in the room's going to hear it. And she said, that's the point. She said, we have to lift the energy. We have to lift the energy of this room. And I said, oh, okay. And so I just started sounding into the client's body, and things started moving, and the rest is history. And so then I was more focused on the sound part than just the moving my hands and going into the body and moving things around, because I found that sound really moves tissue and moves cells. And actually it's been they've done some scientific studies that with grains of sand, how if you do drumming and the grains of sand make different formations. And so it's quite a science and quite an art. So that's like maybe 20 years ago. So I've been just developing the sound healing more and more through the years. And what I've found is that I can do just a straight on hands-on healing and going in and doing all that inner work with people. But if I bring in sound, it goes much faster, and their healing process is accelerated. So now I use crystal singing bowls, and I do events, which I love to do, and everybody loves to have them. They're called sound baths, and where I play the crystal bowls and I do chanting and working on people's body with the bowls, and it's quite miraculous. It's so gorgeous, and the vibration of the bowls and some of the other instruments is so uplifting and so powerful that you don't really need much. And also we've elevated the consciousness on the planet, so people are more ready for this kind of a thing. And I just did I'm doing a new form of it, calling it Divine Light Higher Frequency Activations, because I'm activating people's frequency, because I found that until we can uplift our frequency in our energy bodies, we're just sort of going in circles. So we have to do an upgrade, like a reboot, and it really works. People are having some amazing experiences, and I work with the angels there. I mean, because I call in the angels, and some of the healing masters like that. So it's very powerful stuff. So it all goes together. It all goes together. And I just did my second activation just this past Friday night in this new format that I'm doing. So it's great fun. I'm very blessed to be able to enjoy my work this way.
Congratulations. So using one circle with the bowl to get people out of their hamster wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's really good, though. That's really good, because music is a powerful thing, but more importantly, just sound itself, especially the right sounds, it can just really adjust the human body in more ways than thought possible, because
yes,
it even goes with the sand and the drums that you're talking about earlier, and
yes,
kind of goes back in time, I guess, with the ceremonial dances and the drumming to try to summon rain and things like that. It's really powerful.
Yeah, and all the natives, they always use sound, and even some of the earlier indigenous people, other than, indigenous are native, but I mean some of the other groups of people in the early days of spirituality and religion, they always use ritual and sound. Did you ever hear of the Shakers? They're from down around where you are. Yeah, they've died out because they were a spiritual group that, well, they had children, but they didn't believe in people having sex, basically. And so, if that doesn't happen, then your whole lineage dies out. But their big thing, the reason they were called Shakers, was because they danced. Their spirituality was singing and dancing. And of course, they would have prayers and that kind of thing, but they would sing and they would dance. And then when they were dancing, they danced and danced and danced until they dropped, till they collapsed. And that's when then spirit would enter their body. That was their belief. So, and because I have pictures in some of the Shaker books of them. So, I was fascinated with the Shakers because there was a big Shaker community from around where I grew up, and I didn't know that when I was growing up, and so I found that out later in life, and I went there to visit the place. And the Shakers are the people who make very beautiful, simple furniture and buildings, and they were the ones that started like the very simple, functional furniture, and they're a big influence on that. But yeah, shaking. And there are some African tribes that did exactly the same thing. They would shake and they would do the rattles until they dropped. That was the key, that they would shake until they would go out, basically. And some of the Sufis, I've actually seen a couple of Sufis, they will dance and they will twirl and they will twirl and they will collapse. And that's when spirit is entering. And the danger is you have to bring them right back because they'll want to go off with the spirits. Because it's a very pleasant experience, I'm told.
So dance until they collapse, huh?
Yeah. I
wonder how long that would take.
Right, I know. Well, I think you have to be really tuned in. You have to be really tuned in to, spiritually. Because I don't think some of us would, we would just get tired.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, they had cardio back then, so it's like,
yes.
I'm pretty sure that was taking a long time.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So it's great stuff.
Great stuff indeed. So any plans for future books, like maybe a poetry book or something along those lines?
Oh, it's interesting you should ask me because, not I don't have one, that's not what I'm saying this, is that I was going to do 3 books. I was going to do a book of New York, a book on Rome, and then a third one I didn't know which it was. All photography. They would all be in a series. And so a friend of mine and her husband decided that they were going to take 6 months off. This was about 5 years ago. And go live in Rome and see what it was going to be like to retire when it was time for them to retire. Because they'd always wanted to do that kind of thing. They're big travelers. So they invited some of their friends to come at different times. And I said, yes, I can start photographing my Rome book. So I went and I photographed all these incredible angels. I had no idea that there were so many angels in Rome. I mean, they're on every street corner. And so many that I could not photograph them all, and really good ones. And some of the art was not, was kind of not so interesting. But anyway, so I had all these Rome pictures, and as my life has gotten more involved in my healing work and my sound work, and this angel book, and channeling angels, I just said, I'm not going to do another book. I don't really have time. I decided I was going to make an angel card deck. And use all the angels, use the New York angels and the Rome angels. And so I'm right in the middle of that. I totally forgot to tell you. I'm totally right in the middle of it. I've done all of the words that go on each card for each angel. I channel them. I would go in. I I would ask each angel, okay, what do you want me to say about you? Or what do you wish to say to the person who's looking at these cards? And that was great fun. And so they would tell me. And the cards are mainly directed towards the healing clients that I have, or the type of work that I do. So it would be the questions or the statements that each angel would have would be really directed to a person. Like if you were to pull a card, you would pull that card, and it would be he would be speaking to you. So about what you need for that day or for that month or whatever. And so I'm working with a graphic designer, and she's right in the middle now of putting all the pieces together. And I've got a fabulous printer I just agreed to with that I'd been trying to get them to be my printer, and so all the facts came in. So we're on our way. So hopefully that'll be out February. Well, it may be a little bit, maybe more like March, because it takes a whole month, because I'm having them done in China, because they have the better printing presses right now, because that's where my book was done. I'm usually a USA person, but when it comes to making really good printing, I hate to say it, but that's where it is. But so that's a good thing, because everybody needs to earn a living. But anyway, so the deck is called The Angels Speak. We went back and forth on that because the title that I wanted to have, when I researched it, when I Googled it, there must have been 6 books and other things that had that title. And so I said, and one of them happened to be an acquaintance of mine. I said, I can't do that. I just cannot do that. And so it actually turns out this is actually a better title, because it really says it, because the angels are talking. So it's really very exciting. So it's a mix of New York angels and Rome. And there's a couple of angels that I took on the Italian countryside. So it's kind of and one from Russia. There's a Russian angel in there. So that's going to be really gorgeous. So I don't know what will come after that.
Maybe a Japanese angel?
I know. I don't know if there are any Japanese angels. That's a good question. Well, I don't know if they actually believe in angels. Islam believes in angels. The Jewish faith believes in angels, but not in images. Because I learned that from a very good friend of mine's husband, who was Orthodox Jew, and when I asked him for some tips on what the Jewish people say and think about, because I was doing my research, he said, we're not allowed to have them in image form. They're only in the Bible, and they're talked about of what they've done and the different things that they've done. But the Jewish faith is not big on iconography. They actually think it's a sin. I'm not sure, because I'm not clear about that. But it's interesting. But Islam, and when I was doing my research, I was really surprised, because Islam was the first religion to talk about angels. It goes back, eons, because it is said that Muhammad, an angel whispered in his ear, but I can't remember now what the angel whispered, but it's documented. So I thought that was quite fascinating. In the book, I do have a Muslim text. It's not a poem, it's like a prose. It doesn't come from the Quran, because there wasn't anything that I could find, but there was this Muslim text. It was like an ancient text that I found, which was quite beautiful. It was about Archangel Michael.
Ooh. Ah, beautiful indeed. So angels from all over the world, but most of them hiding in New York.
Yes. Well, no, Rome has got us beat. I mean, there are monuments on practically every corner with an angel on it. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but not too much. There's a whole bridge filled with angels. It's near the Vatican. It's the Porta dell'Angelo, I think it's called. And there's a very famous sculptor who does gorgeous angels, and his name is Bernini. And he's probably the most famous artist of Italy. And he did all the angels on this bridge. I mean, I don't know how many angels there are on this bridge, but I mean, it's famous worldwide, about the angels on the bridge. So they'll be on the cards. They're on the cards. Yeah.
Angels on the bridge and the cards. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a card game, bridge, right?
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. That's really interesting.
There you go. There you go. And speaking of interesting, if you were to go back in time and you were 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2018, but you get to keep all your knowledge and experience of angels and whatnot, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh my God. So if I were to go back, if I could go back to when I was 25?
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? But I can keep all the knowledge that I have. No, I wouldn't go back to 25. Those years are too rough. I might go back to when I was 50 or 45, because those were for myself. I'd been through therapy. I'd gotten it all. Most of it had. I understood myself better. Because I think when I was that young, I didn't understand myself well enough. I mean, a lot of people don't have to have therapy, but I chose that, and that really helped. But I think most of my therapy came after my therapy. It really came from when I was studying to be a healer, because when you study to be a healer the way I did, you have to go through a lot of your stuff. And I studied the psychology part of my healing. It's called core energetics, and it's about physical movement and learning body types and where we get stuck when we come in and what we have to work through. And that's when I was really able to release a lot of my old patterns and my old wounds, releasing the wounds, because that's the key. And I find that the crystal bowls really help people release wounds in a more graceful way. They sort of dissolve rather than having to go through the strum and drum of it. Because a lot of therapy, you relive it. But with the way I'm working now with people, you don't have to relive it. You have to know that it happened. And that something, and you don't even have to know what it was. That something was there, and then we work on the chakras and the energy field to clear that all out, because it's just residue. It's just stuck stuff that hasn't been dealt with, and that's where it's exciting when you can do that. For me as a healer, that's the exciting part. And then I have angels that work with me. So, I've got the best of both worlds. But that is an interesting question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
Do most people want to go back?
Oh, no, it's just a very... Well, most people do, because the other part of the question is if you were 25 in the current year of 2018. So that's the other part of the question that folks like. It's like, yeah, I get to be 25 again. I get to be young again. I get to keep all my knowledge. All right. Get to restart the game.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to go that far back because I didn't, as I said. But that is a good point. Most people do. Ooh. I think it depends on your experiences. That's what I would think.
Very true indeed.
I had a great life, but I was learning. I was releasing my wounds and being affected by my environment.
So the quarter-life crisis before it became popular.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, indeed. And now she's photographing angels and having angels surrounding her. It's a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing indeed. Yeah. And for those who want to be a part of the wonderful thing, how do we keep in touch with you?
Oh, So my website, the book has a website, and then I have a healing website. So the book's website is Angels of New York, spelled out, book. So it's angelsofnewyorkbook.com. And it has some of the images on there, and my computer guy upgraded my website, so it's really beautiful now. It was beautiful before, but now it's even more beautiful. So I'm very excited about that. So there are images there, and I have a blog, and there's blog stories. So there's lots of stuff on there, and the press is on there. So then my healing website is Sylvia, Sylvia, Moss, Moss, healer.com. Then my email address, if people want to, get in touch with me. Actually, each site has a, place where you can, but some people don't get that far. So if anyone wants to email me, my email is Sylvia, Sylvia, at sylviamoss.com. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And also on both of the websites there's 2 opt-ins. So if you want to get future events that I'm doing, know about that, so you can opt in. Or if you just want to opt in and get the free gift, which is a beautiful piece of music that my daughter wrote for the angels. And if you don't want my events, then just send me an email and say I just want the music. I don't want to know, because if they're in another part of the country. But I am going to be doing an online class with crystal bowls and healing, probably 1st of February, because I have to get all the technical stuff down, which I'm in the midst of performing it all. So, so if you want to know about that, email me and opt in. The piece of music is a gorgeous piece of music that she had written for a film that she had done, but she gave it to me as some background music for people who wanted to have something to listen to when they read the book. It's very beautiful. It's all about angels. It's angel kind of sounds. It's very melodic. So there's that. I think I gave you all the contact stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So there you have it, folks. Go ahead and opt in for that email list to keep track of all the wonderful stuff that she's doing, and download the classical piece of angelic music that puts you in one heck of a great mood. Heck, it might even be so great, bunny ears might come out your head. That's how good it is.
Right. Also, Dom, I just wanted to add, I forgot, if anybody wants to get information when the card deck is out, they can email me that and say that they'd be interested, and then I'll just keep them on a list.
That's right. That's right. Forget about the kiss on the list. It's about the card deck on the list, baby. That's what I'm talking about. The angel deck, and maybe even play a game of angel deck bridge. Who knows?
Who knows? Right. But definitely check out that book, because the book is really something you can keep by your bed or on your desk to just open up to get like, oh, I'm having a horrible day, and open a page, and like, oh, it helps you breathe.
That's right. Get to breathe deep, and no orange robe required either. Just keep it by the bedside.
Right.
Just stand it up, have it look at you.
Yeah.
While you're sleeping.
Yeah, right, exactly. You can actually ask angels to come and help you heal anything while you're sleeping. But that might weird some people out, but you can ask them. A lot of people are into that now more. It's not so spooky to some people. Thank you for asking me all these leading questions. You got me on a roll there.
That's right. I believe I like to call myself a roll, and the guests are the hot dogs, because hot dogs, they stay on the roll. That's right.
Yeah, very nice.
Stop.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it and share all those too. And in order to make the rest of your week the best of your week, remember to advance others, to advance yourself.